My dear friends, my brothers and sisters, break free, step out, take the risk, chase the dream, speak the truth. And remember, you were not born to survive comfort. You were born to rise above it. Because sometimes the most dangerous place you can be is exactly where you are. My name is Muniba Mazari, and I am a motivational speaker. If you are new at my channel, subscribe and start a new journey with me. Comfort zones are strange things. They're not loud. They don't scream at you or tie you down with chains. They're soft, quiet, gentle, like a favorite hoodie you've worn so many times that it's become your second skin. They feel warm, familiar, and safe, like you found a little island in the middle of a chaotic world where nothing can hurt you. But that's the trap. Because while you're curled up, they're feeling like everything is okay, life is happening somewhere else, growth is happening somewhere else, and without even realizing it, you're getting smaller. The truth is, comfort zones aren't built overnight. They're created over years of learned fears, repeated thoughts, and tiny compromises. Each time we say no to something that scares us, even if it's good for us, we add another brick. Every time we choose silence instead of truth or routine instead of risk, we pour more cement, and slowly, these choices stack up until they form walls. Walls we start to believe are protecting us, but that are really just keeping us from becoming who we're meant to be. We love our comfort zones because they promise control. They give us predictable outcomes, no surprises, no failure. But they also give us no growth, no adventure, no stretching of the soul. And it's funny because even when we feel restless, even when something deep inside us says this isn't enough, we still cling to the familiar. We stay in jobs that drain us, relationships that numb us, habits that shrink us because at least we know what to expect. Because at least we won't have to face the unknown. But that's the thing, right? Life isn't meant to be completely figured out. You don't get to grow unless you're willing to not know, unless you're willing to be uncomfortable. Because discomfort isn't a punishment, it's a teacher. It's the invitation. It's the place where transformation begins. And yet, we keep trying to build lives that avoid discomfort at all costs. We crave comfort so much that we'll choose it. Even when it's hurting us, even when it's killing the parts of us that are meant to be alive. I think deep down we all know when we're stuck. We know when we're meant for more, but we just keep telling ourselves that no isn't the time. That maybe next year, we'll finally go after that dream. That someday we'll speak our truth. But someday never really comes, does it? Because the longer we wait, the deeper the trap becomes. And the scariest part is comfort zones don't come with alarms. They don't warn you when you've been there too long. They just quietly steal your potential. Overcoming this isn't about waking up one day and bulldozing your entire life. It's about awareness. It's about noticing where you've gone numb. It's about asking hard questions. Am I growing here or just surviving? Am I being honest with myself or just safe? It's about realizing that peace and comfort are not the same thing. Peace comes from alignment. Comfort often comes from avoidance. One of the most beautiful things about being human is that we're wired for growth. We are meant to evolve, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, creatively. When we deny ourselves that evolution because we're scared of the unknown, we deny ourselves the richness of being alive. But when we step out, even in small ways, we feel it. The stretch, the spark, the aliveness. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. And I get it. It's terrifying. It's terrifying to risk failure, to speak the truth, to leap before the net appears. But here's the thing. They're not weak. They're not weak. They're sacred. They're the parts of you that care, that want to protect you. You don't need to silence them. You need to walk with them. You need to show them that courage doesn't mean being fearless. It means being scared and still choosing something greater. Comfort zones are beautiful because they feel like home, but they're trapped because they're not where your soul wants to stay. Your soul is restless because it was never meant to settle. It was meant to climb, to expand, to breathe deeply and live loudly. So if you feel stuck, it's okay. But don't build a life there. Don't decorate the walls of your limitation. Instead, take one small step into the unknown. You don't have to leap, just lean, just reach, just begin. Because the moment you leave comfort behind, even just a little, you start to remember who you are. Not who the world told you to be. Not who fear shaped you into, but who you were always becoming. We're taught to run from pain, to avoid anything that feels hard, uncertain, or unfamiliar. Discomfort is painted like a warning sign, a thing to escape. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if the very thing we're running from is actually the doorway we've been searching for? Discomfort isn't a punishment. It's an invitation. It's life knocking gently and sometimes not so gently saying, hey, there's more for you. It's that awkward, painful, sometimes confusing space between who you were and who you're becoming. And it's necessary. You don't grow without it. You don't evolve, expand, or heal in the absence of struggle. Because growth doesn't happen when things are easy. It happens when things challenge you, when they push you, when they stretch you in ways you didn't ask for, but maybe needed all along. We talk about growth like it's this inspiring, magical process, and sometimes it is. But more often, it's messy, it's uncomfortable. It's sitting in a room with all your fears and still choosing to stay. It's waking up with a heavy heart and still getting up. It's trying, failing, and trying again, even when no one's watching. Discomfort is not glamorous, but it's honest. It's real. It strips away the things you thought mattered and introduces you to the things that actually do. The world tells us to chase comfort, to build lives that are convenient, efficient, predictable. But predictable doesn't mean fulfilling. Easy doesn't mean meaningful. Comfort might keep your heart from breaking, but it also keeps it from opening. And growth, real deep, beautiful growth, it lives on the other side of that opening. We think if something is hard, we must be doing it wrong. But sometimes the hard path is the right one. Not because life is trying to test us, but because we're being called into a higher version of ourselves. Every person you admire, every story that moved you, every transformation that inspired you, it was born in discomfort. No one grows by staying still. No one becomes whole by staying the same. And here's the thing, discomfort isn't just about big dramatic moments. It's also in the small, quiet choices. Choosing honesty over silence, vulnerability over perfection, listening instead of reacting, letting go when everything inside you wants to hold on. These are the places where growth lives. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, in the stillness, in the uncomfortable truth. But discomfort doesn't mean suffering. It doesn't mean we have to break ourselves to grow. It just means we have to feel to be present, to stop numbing ourselves with distraction, approval, and fear. Because the moment we allow discomfort to exist without judgment, we begin to heal. We begin to change. We begin to grow into the version of ourselves that is no longer afraid of pain, but is willing to walk through it to find purpose. And when you do that, when you stop running and start listening, you'll notice something. Discomfort has wisdom. It teaches you who you are. It shows you what matters. It burns away the superficial and leaves behind the truth. It says this is where your edges are. This is where you can stretch. And stretching isn't always fun, but it's where the magic happens. We spend so much energy avoiding discomfort that we don't realize how much life we're missing. We stay quiet instead of speaking up. We stay small instead of taking risks. We choose safety instead of growth. And in doing so, we choose to survive rather than live. But living, really living, requires courage. The kind of courage that doesn't always roar, but shows up anyway. The kind that says, even when you're terrified. But what it leaves behind can stay with you for a lifetime. Resilience, clarity, compassion, strength. You'll look back at the moments that broke you and realize they were also the moments that built you. So, if you're in a season of discomfort right now, please don't rush to fix it. Don't cover it up or push it down. Sit with it. Listen to what it's trying to show you. Because somewhere inside that ache, that frustration, that uncertainty, there's something sacred. There's a lesson, a gift, a turning point. You don't have to be fearless to grow. You just have to be willing. Willing to feel. Willing to trust that discomfort isn't here to destroy you. It's here to wake you up, to shake your soul and whisper, you're becoming. And isn't that what life is really about? There's the story we tell ourselves. It sounds like I'll start when I'm ready, or someday, when the timing is better, or I just need to figure things out first. We wait for clarity. We wait for confidence. We wait for the fear to go away. But the truth is, there's no perfect time. There never has been, and there never will be. Waiting for the right time is just a more comfortable way to say I'm scared. And that's okay. Of course you're scared, because stepping into something new, something meaningful, something honest, it's terrifying. You might fail. You might lose people. You might find out you're not as strong as you hoped, but you also might discover who you really are. And isn't that worth the risk? We grow up thinking life will eventually feel settled, that there's some future version of us, more polished, more healed, more figured out, who will finally have the courage to act. But that version never shows up. Because the only way to become that person is to start now with the mess, with the questions, with the ache in your chest and the lump in your throat and the voice that says, I'm not ready. Because that's the truth. We're never really ready for the things that matter. We become ready by doing them anyway. Time isn't something you catch up to. It's something you participate in right now. This moment, this breath, that's all you actually have. And the more you wait for the right moment, the more you let life slip quietly through your fingers. We tell ourselves we're being responsible, cautious, practical, but more often we're just scared to be vulnerable. Scared to be seen trying because trying means we care. Trying means we're invested. And when you care that much, but what if it's okay to fail? What if starting, even imperfectly, is the win? What if the courage to show up before you're ready is the very thing that changes your life? Sometimes the right time is just another version of self-pity protection, a shield against rejection, a delay in facing the things we don't want to feel. But the longer we wait, the heavier that shield becomes. It turns into regret, into frustration, into this quiet, knowing sense that we're betraying ourselves. And I don't think we're meant to live like that. I don't think we're meant to spend our lives on the edge of the thing we love, too afraid to leap. I think we're meant to fall in love with our lives in the middle of the mess. I think we're meant to start writing the book before we know the ending. To speak the truth before we've practiced the speech 100 times. To love before we've mastered how to protect ourselves from heartbreak. Because life doesn't wait. It's not going to pause and let you catch up. It moves, and if you don't move with it, you end up stuck in a version of yourself that doesn't fit anymore. A version that was shaped by fear instead of possibility. We don't need more time. More honesty about what we really want, about what we're afraid of, about what it's costing us to stay stuck. Because once you get honest, really honest about how much it hurts to keep waiting, you start to see that the only thing between you and the life you want is your willingness to begin. You don't have to do it all today. You don't have to have a 10-step plan or complete confidence or perfect conditions. You just have to begin. You just have to say, I'm scared, but I'm doing it anyway. And that decision, that's where everything shifts. That's where you stop being a passive observer of your life and become an active participant in your own becoming. We wait because we're taught that time will deliver us clarity. But it's not time that brings clarity. It's movement, action, showing up, falling down, getting back up. It's living even if it's messy. Especially if it's messy. Even if it's messy. Even find the answers we've been waiting for. So stop waiting for the perfect body, for the perfect moment, for the perfect plan. Stop waiting for permission or certainty or signs that scream lies. Sometimes the only sign you get is the one already inside you. The quiet whisper saying, you're meant for more. You always have been. Fear gets a bad reputation. We talk about it like it's something broken inside us, something to be fixed or erased. But fear isn't the enemy. It's natural. Fear is human. Fear is your body's way of saying, hey, this matters. Fear only shows up when something is close to your heart, when something has meaning, when the outcome could shape you in some way. That means fear is not a flaw. It's a sign you're alive. But somewhere along the way, we learn to treat fear like a stop sign. We tell ourselves, I'm not ready yet, or maybe later, or what if I fail? And so we wait, we hesitate, we shrink. We sit with the thing we're afraid of like it's a wall we can't climb. But the real danger isn't the fear itself, pause that never ends, the silence that grows louder with time. Inaction is where dreams go to die, not because you weren't worthy, but because fear told you a story and you believed it. It told you that discomfort was danger. It told you that rejection would destroy you. It told you that mistakes were fatal. And so you chose safety. You chose comfort. You chose stillness. But deep down, a part of you always wondered, what if I had tried? The thing about fear is that it doesn't go away just because you ignore it. It waits. It lingers. It shows up in your body, in the tension in your chest, in the heaviness behind your eyes, in the quiet restlessness you feel at night. It becomes background noise, always humming, always reminding you of what you haven't done. And the longer you wait, the more power it has, not because the fear has grown stronger, but because your inaction has made it louder. But here's the beautiful part. Fear can be your compass. It can show you where you're meant to go. If something scares you and excites you, that's usually a sign you're headed in the right direction. Not because it's safe, not because it's easy, but because it asks something of you, because it asks you to rise. And rising is what you're here for. We think courage means not being afraid. But that's not true. Courage is feeling the fear, holding it gently, and moving forward anyway. It's saying, yes, I'm scared, but this matters more. That's what separates the people who live fully from the people who only imagine what that might feel like. And let's be real. Fear is loud, it's clever, it knows all the right words to say to keep you small. It'll disguise itself as logic, as caution, as maturity. But most of the time, it's just avoidance, a way to protect your heart from the unknown. And yet, ironically, the unknown is where everything beautiful lives, growth, joy, connection, purpose. You won't find those things in the waiting room of life. What we forget is that every great thing you admire in others began with fear. No one builds a meaningful life without being afraid. The difference is that some people let fear sit in the back seat while they drive, and others hand it the keys. So maybe it's not about getting rid of fear. Maybe it's about becoming the kind of person who can live with it, who can hear the voice of fear and say, I see you, I feel you, but I won't let you decide for me, because fear will always try to write your story, but you get to decide if it holds the pen. The truth is, you will be afraid. You will doubt yourself. You will want to quit. But those moments don't define you. What defines you is what you choose next. What defines you is how you keep going, even with shaky hands and a trembling voice. What defines you is the choice to act, even when your heart is racing and your thoughts are spiraling. And action doesn't have to be huge. It can be small. It can be quiet. It can be one tiny step in the direction of the life you want. Because every step you take, no matter how small, whispers to fear. You don't control me, and every time you are power, you don't have to wait until you feel fearless to begin. You begin. And little by little, you learn that you can survive fear, that you can breathe through it, that you can live alongside it and still move forward. And one day, you'll look back and realize that fear was never the enemy. It was the invitation, the door, the signal that something beautiful was waiting on the other side. But only if you choose to move. Somewhere along the way, we learn how to shrink. Not intentionally, not all at once, but piece by piece. We start by lowering our expectations just a little. We call it being realistic. Then we stop asking for what we really want because it feels like too much. We settle for less, not because we don't dream, but because we're scared to look greedy for wanting more. And eventually we begin to convince ourselves that this half version of life is all we deserve. But let's be honest, it's not what we wanted, not even close. There's a quiet kind of sadness in settling. It's not loud, not dramatic, it's subtle. It looks like boredom that turns into numbness. It sounds like laughter that doesn't quite reach your chest anymore. It feels like living a life that fits sort of, but not in the way that matters, not in the soul. Settling doesn't mean you're weak. It just means you forgot how much you're worth. Or maybe no one ever told you. Maybe no one ever looked you in the eye and said, hey, you don't have to stay here. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to want better. You see, you weren't made to just exist. You weren't made to just get through the day. You weren't made to live someone else's idea of a good life. You were made to feel deeply, to grow wildly, to love boldly, to fall and rise and try again, not to go on autopilot until the years blur together, deeply thankful for what you have and still want more for yourself. More peace, more joy, more authenticity. That's not selfish, that's sacred. Settling is often rooted in fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of what people will say. If something costs your joy, your truth, your sense of self, then it's not good enough, not for you. And here's the tough truth. Staying in what's familiar but unfulfilling doesn't protect you. It just prolongs the ache. It keeps you stuck in a place where your heart is half awake and your soul is whispering. There's more. You weren't made for almost love, almost dreams, almost joy. You were made for depth, for fire, for the kind of life that makes you feel like you're finally breathing again. It asks everything of you. It means facing uncertainty and grief and loneliness. It means standing in the space between what was and what could be. And that space is uncomfortable. But it's also where you grow. It's where you get honest. It's where you start listening to yourself again. When something feels like settling, you can feel it in your body, in the tension in your shoulders, in the sigh that escapes your chest for no reason, in the way your smile doesn't quite feel real. That's your soul talking. Don't ignore it. You are allowed to leave a job that drains you. Others think it's stable. You are allowed to end relationships that feel safe but small. You are allowed to change your mind, change your path, and change your life. Not because you're ungrateful, but because you are finally ready to choose yourself. Choosing not to settle doesn't mean chasing perfection. It doesn't mean every day will be magical and every step will feel right. It means refusing to dim your light just to make other people comfortable. It means refusing to keep making yourself smaller in order to fit inside boxes you've outgrown. It means refusing to keep making yourself smaller in order to fit inside boxes you've outgrown. Greedy way, in a deeply human way, in a way that honors who you are and who you're becoming, in a way that says, I know it's scary, I know it's hard, but I believe I'm worth it. The beautiful thing is that when you stop settling, you make space for love that feels whole, for work that fulfills you, for a life that reflects your truth instead of just your fears. And when you step into that space, even if it's just one small step at a time, you begin to remember who you are, and you begin to feel alive again. Not everyone will understand. That's okay. This isn't about them. And it's time to stop making yourself feel guilty for wanting to live it fully. We tend to believe that change has to be huge, dramatic, and sudden, like fireworks or a grand declaration, something big enough to match the chaos inside of us, right? But in reality, the most powerful changes rarely look like that. They begin quietly. They begin with a single decision, a whisper in the middle of the noise, a small step that doesn't even feel like much until later when you look back and realize it changed everything. The truth is, transformation doesn't come all at once. It doesn't arrive in some shining moment where everything makes sense. It begins in discomfort, in restlessness, in those moments when you're lying awake at night and something inside you just knows this can't be it. And sometimes that realization doesn't feel empowering at all. Sometimes it feels terrifying because acknowledging that something needs to change means you can no longer stay where you are. But here's the beautiful and painful thing about being human. We are built to evolve. We are wired for growth. And yet we fight it. We resist it because we're scared. Not always of the unknown, but often of losing the familiar. Even when the familiar is making us miserable. It's okay to be scared. Change demands courage. Not because it's flashy or glamorous, but because it asks you to do the hard thing when it would be easier to stay the same. It asks you to risk being wrong, to risk looking foolish, to risk failure. And yet, you take the step anyway. The first step isn't usually pretty. Sometimes it looks like crying in the shower after finally admitting you're not okay. Sometimes it's putting down the drink or getting out of bed or saying no when you always say yes. We tell ourselves we'll take action when we have a plan, or when the pain is gone, or when the timing is better. But readiness is a myth. If you wait until you're not scared, you'll wait forever. The first step is always going to feel awkward. It will always come with doubt and discomfort. That's how you know it matters. The world may never validate your bravery. No one may clap for you when you decide to choose yourself. You might not get applause when you start the healing process or when you walk away from something that's slowly breaking you. But you don't need applause. You need honesty. You need truth. And you need to be willing to move forward even when no one else is watching. Because once you take that first brave step, something inside you changes. You begin to trust yourself again. You start proving to your own soul that you are not a prisoner of your past, that you are not defined by the worst thing that's happened to you, that you have agency, that you are capable of creating a life that feels good in your bones, not just looks good from the outside, and you'll stumble, of course. You'll take one step forward and 3 steps back. You'll question everything. You'll want to give up. That's okay. Falling is part of it. But every time you choose to keep going, even just an inch at a time, you are changing. You are healing. You are becoming. You are changing. But momentum builds with movement. The more you step into the unknown, the less intimidating it becomes. One decision, one action, one moment of choosing yourself, your truth, your healing over comfort. That's where all great change begins. Not with perfection, not with certainty, but with bravery. Raw, imperfect, unglamorous bravery. And maybe one day you'll look back at that moment, at that one tiny brave step, and realize that was the day everything shifted. Not because the world changed, but because you.